What's up everybody, another beautiful day in the Dragon Isles, and today we're taking a quick look at the best builds to run for each fight in the new raid Aberrus, both on Heroic and Mythic, why they're good for different fights, and some helpful tips and tricks. Let me know what y'all think of this guide and if it's something you'd like me to do for future tiers as well. I also plan to make more in-depth enhancement guides for Echo of Neltharion and Sarkareth Mythic, once we're done progging them. Now the main builds we'll be talking about are the Storm single target / cleave build and the Elementalist builds, because some fights favor one over the other. What a time to be alive! Now starting off with Kazzara, for pure single target fights like this on both Heroic and Mythic, I recommend running the Storm single target build, which currently has the highest single target potential. Now seeing as this is the first boss in the raid, there's really not that much you can do as far as min-maxing goes. One thing I like to do is spread and move closer to Dread Rifts before the Rays of Anguish spawn. So if I get a ray after me, it'll spawn closer to the rift, and I'll overall lose less uptime, especially if the rift is very far from the boss, since the rays moves Pepega slow, although that is when I don't have to go on an incredible journey across land and sea with the damn ray. Moving on to the Amalgamation Chamber, same is true here, full single target storm blasting. I like to run Thunderous Paw here for the extra movement speed increase on Ghosty Wolf, great for when you need to get to a soak fast, get out of something, or slip through between these shadowy balls. And unless assigned, I like to use my Windrush whenever I get a mechanic forcing me to move far from the boss, like running out with the Umbral Detonation. Now as far as min-maxing damage, there's not really too much to impact it here more than trying to maximize uptime on boss. Whenever you're not slapping, you're doing no damage. Moving on to Forgotten Experiments. On Heroic, I recommend going full single target storm and just blast, but on Mythic, most of the fight will be 2-target cleave with several adds spawning from the Unstable Essence mechanic. So either play Storm Cleave or Elementalist AoE builds, so you get Crash Lightning and Crashing Storm for both of them. Having Crash Lightning up when there's 2 targets to smack greatly increases our Maelstrom generations. It's a huge damage boost for both builds. Now as far as which of the builds is better, they both work really well. Technically Elementalist will win as it has a higher burst potential when you add in all the small adds from Unstable Essence, being able to get a ton of extra pad and funnel damage due to Primordial Wave. As soon as their small adds up, you can easily get 4 to 6 targets for some juicy haste and bursty damage. And on top of this, it also melts the adds, which do need to die fast. Smacking one set with Primordial Wave Lightning Bolts into Hailstorm Ice Strike empowered Frost Shark Slap is a lot of burst. And even outside of Primordial Wave, you still do a ton of damage just slapping them with Chain Lightning and Frost Shocks, especially if you have the new 4 set. That being said, this hinges a lot more on you and your raid's overall execution. If the ad spawns are very chaotic, it can be very hard to do the proper setup that's needed with the Elementalist build, and if you mess something up, it's very punishing. For example, Primordial Wave comes off cooldown. New ads should be spawning in 5 seconds. You hold Primordial Wave, but the dispels are delayed, and you end up holding Primordial Wave for a really long time. Or perhaps you get targeted by a mechanic and get too late to the ad, so they die before you manage to fire off your Primordial Wave Lightning Bolt, and then you get sad. The list goes on, but when played properly, it absolutely decimates things on this fight. Storm Cleave, on the other hand, is a lot more forgiving, not only rotationally, but there's no setup needed. Just blast, add spawn, run over and Crash Lightning, Chain Lightning. Got 4-piece, slap down a Sundering on him into Empowered Chain Lightning spam. So it felt a lot more consistent to me, even though Elementalist has a higher DPS ceiling on this fight if played properly. Now on Mythic, keep in mind that the first boss Neldris Bellowing Roar really hurts, so unless you have a personal cooldown running or raid cooldown, move out a little bit. And if you get Unstable Essence, you can pop Earth Shield to help you survive the dot, especially when you start going over 10 stacks. It's also a great moment to pop Astral Shift. And Windrush is great for when melee needs to run over and kill Unstable Essence adds, if the raid happens to be far away from the Dispel area. Going over to the Assault of the Zaqali. Again, both Storm Cleave and Elementalist works very well on this, although I prefer Elementalist for this encounter. And it does have the highest slap potential here, as well as a very good damage profile for the fight overall. First of all, there's rarely more than 6 to 8 adds up, fewer if your raid throws down the rubble well. Now the Elementalist slaps extremely hard on low target cleave, and they're able to funnel all their AoE resources into boss damage whenever he jumps to your platform. For example, boss hops over, you fire off a 6-stack Primordial Wave, gain 60% haste that you slap boss with. And all the Flame Shocks will stack up Ashen Catalyst, which in turn goes right into the boss. Unless you want to pad overall, then you can just tab target with it instead. Now the same is true whenever the Magma Mystic spawn. If you're able to combo that with Primordial Wave, which it lined up very well with, then you're able to funnel that plus Ashen Catalyst, etc. into breaking the Mystic's barrier. And the Frost Shock slaps on all the ads are just, yeah. So like I said, very useful damage profile for this encounter. Storm Cleave still works very well and is, again, a lot more straightforward and less punishing if you mess something up, and has a greater single target potential for the last phase. However, considering this boss tuning, that really doesn't matter. Just know that you aren't actively screwing over the raid by playing Storm if you prefer it. Then we take a look at Rashok. For this, again, full single target Storm build for both Heroic and Mythic. I also recommend running Healing Stream Totem and Earth Shield for Mythic, at least until they nerf it, as the constant raid damage is not awesome as enhancement, and we feel pretty damn squishy at times during this fight. Now as far as minimaxing damage and things on this fight goes, the biggest minimax is just staying alive, which I guess is true for any class. So for this fight I rotated Astral Shift and external CDs for Charge Smash, so I'd use my own Astral Shift on one, then I got Sacrifice from a Paladin on the next one, then Astral Shift the third, etc, etc. Usually I popped Healing Stream Totem and Earth Shield for every Charge Smash, as well as every intermission, and after second intermission I also popped Earth Elemental around the second Searing Slam to help survive it, and the third Slam as well. Because if you don't have a defensive cooldown or external for the last Searing Slam, you will instantly die. So either have Astral Shift or an external plus your Earth Ele running. It also overlaps with both a cone as well as a healing absorb, so if possible try to have some Maelstrom saved up so you can help heal off the absorb and just survive. Again, this is our own Mythic. Other than that, Windrush is great to throw on Slowbie classes that gets targeted by Searing Slam and might have to run far with the slam. Ancestral Guidance will most likely be assigned by your guild, but otherwise used on Charge Smash or Intermission. Using it on both Intermission 1 and 2 means it will be up just before boss enrages, so if you survive that last slam I was talking about, you're able to dish out a lot of healing on the raid. And again, Earth Shield, hella good. Moving on to Zskarn. Again, full single target Stormy Storm. You can swap a point in Molten Assault for Crash Lightning to gain some extra pad and Maelstrom generation whenever the golems are near the boss, but the main focus will be slapping the boss. This fight is all about minimizing downtime and being able to hit the boss as much as possible while dodging a quazillion mechanics. Running out with Unstable Embers, moving from traps, being knocked away, running from tactical destruction, and always chasing the darn boss. So having the Thunderous Paw talent for Ghost Wolf is great for that extra on-demand burst movement speed, Windrush for tactical destructions when you don't gateway them. And if needed, you can pop Earth Shield when you get targeted by Unstable Ember to help alleviate some of the ticking damage, so you're healthier when the Mythic Beam goes out from it. Make sure to always position yourself well when traps are about to spawn, so if you do get hit by it, prepare to heal yourself and pop Earth Shield, or look at your healers and go, "One heal!" while they're crying. Then we have Magmorax. On both Heroic and Mythic, you'll be running the Storm single target build. Shockingly, I recommend playing Gust of Wind here to help with the Giga knockbacks, and as far as cool things to do in this fight, it's about as patchwork as they come as far as slapping it goes. On Mythic, using Earth Shield again is a great way to help survive in the later stages of the fight where the raid damage tends to be a bit out of control, at least on Mythic. And whenever you're soaking the lava ejection circles on Mythic, be prepared to heal yourself before it goes off. If you aren't above like 60% HP, heal yourself just to be safe. And then you rotate Gateway and Gust of Wind for the knockbacks. I usually let myself get knocked back a tiny bit before I press Gust of Wind to land closer to the boss rather than in the lava or far away. Gotta keep them storm strikes rolling. Moving on to more fun fights, we have Echo of Neltharion. For this, on Mythic, I recommend the Elementalist build with Crash Lightning instead of Swirling Maelstrom. Phase 1 is single target, but Phase 2 is pretty much constant 2-target cleave with the ads, and in last phase you have swarms of small ads spawning, usually around like 6 or 7 of them, which greatly increases our single target damage on boss since we funnel all the Primordial Wave haste and Ashen Catalyst Lava Lash damage into the boss, while still melting the ads themselves with the Primordial Wave Lightning Bolts, Empowered Frost Shocks, and 4-piece Sundering, etc, etc. So this fight very much favors the Elementalist damage profile. Storm for sure works, and works really well in Heroic, but for Mythic, Elementalist damage profile just wins overall. That being said, Storm isn't unplayable and oh my god, you will be below healers, it's just not good. It works really well, it's just that Elementalist can funnel more damage into the boss, which is where you want the damage. I recommend running Thunderous Paws again. Being able to zoom away quickly when you get targeted by Volcanic Heart is invaluable. I mean, you could potentially run Gust of Wind as well, but probably shouldn't be needed, as hopefully you don't get targeted by this constantly. Also, popping Earth Shield when you get targeted by Volcanic Heart is recommended and helps a ton. Windrush on Mythic will most likely be assigned, but if it's not, it's great to use on Volcanic Hearts when slow B classes gets targeted, or to get out of the fissures, or moving between adds in phase 2. And then we have the dreaded Sarkareth. Now on Heroic, I've played both Elementalist and Storm Cleave with great success, but for Mythic, I'd again recommend playing Elementalist build for the same reason as on Echo of Neltharion. Starting from phase 2, you'll get a lot of adds from which you can funnel damage into boss, or if needed, blow up the ad with tons of on-demand burst if need be. We can do a devastating amount of burst on the adds by ice striking before they spawn, Primordial Wave into Lava Lash, into Sundering, Lightning Bolt, and then a Frost Shock Slap, followed by 4-piece Empowered Chain Lightnings. That little burst sequence melts adds. And I mean, Storm does this part pretty well as well, but it doesn't have the same single target gain on boss as Elementalist does, and the same consistency with it, which will be more sought after on Mythic, but also if you're progging Heroic. Other than that, in phase 1, Earth Shield is great overall to help alleviate the constant ticking damage from the dot, and Ancestral Guidance is insane for the Glimmering Surge to help heal the raid. Possibly healing Stream Totem as well. And if you're playing Elementalist, make sure that you have Primordial Wave ready for whatever ad spawns in phase 2 and 3, so you're able to capitalize on all that sweet haste and juicy burst. Yeah, that's pretty much it for the raid builds I'm running in Aberrus. Let me know what y'all think of this guide. Any info you feel is missing, let me know. Don't forget the usual stuff, comment, like, subscribe, and make sure to ring that notification bell. It helps me out a ton. And if you want to help support my work even more, do check out my Patreon. As a patron, you get access to the Stankie Discord, but you can also get shoutouts in videos, coaching, among other things. I also stream progression and testing on Twitch, Stankie Gaming, usually Wednesday, Thursdays, and Sundays during prog. So feel free to hop on by and spam me with questions. I do love answering them. And yeah, thank you all for watching, and I will see you next time. May your storm strike be blessed.